But what I've noticed over years of working with a lot of you in this industry is if we just rely on hero tactics all the time and constant firefighting, it's like so-and-so's got it, they're going to make it happen. Or if you're the owner doing a lot of this, it's like I have to step in and always make this happen. Chances are this isn't super scalable of a business you have, right? And this is where a lot of the tension lies, where it's like the systems are actually broken, causing us to constantly have to rely on hero tactics. And so today I want to get into a little bit of how we can solve this. What is really shifting right now is the customers demanding what I would call like the Amazon experience. You know what I mean? They're like, well, Amazon gets it to me in a day with no issues. Why can't you build my house in the same way? It's like, well, maybe they're a little different. But like the reality is that is where we're going. And we have to evolve and adapt to this because this is what the industry is asking of all of us.
You're watching Contractor Evolution, the podcast by Breakthrough Academy, where we systemize contracting businesses for growth. Keep watching to learn how the world's top contractors scale their companies, build killer teams, and make more while working less. Caleb George runs $34 million in projects with just 3 project managers. Scott Kelley's team can run $1 million project without asking him a single question. What do these 2 builders have in common? Exceptional project management systems. In this roundtable discussion, I sat down with Caleb George from Chris George Homes, Scott Kelley from Evolution Design Build, and Jordan Coolidge from Buildertrend to break down the difference between projects that run profitably without owner involvement and projects that require constant firefighting to cross the finish line. All the free tools and templates discussed in this video are in the description, so make sure you grab those. Now, let's get into it.
Hello, everybody. Good afternoon for most of us. Good morning for a few on the East or West Coast. Welcome to our web class today, where we're going behind the scenes with some of our top members at Breakthrough Academy, pretty active, avid users of Buildertrend, and getting into how they manage projects, how they work with their project managers, and try and help all of you learn from a lot of their mistakes and what they've been doing right over the last couple of years. So stoked to get into that with you guys. So here's a question for you guys that I would love to answer as we get into this. And I would love real names if you can give them. But when you think about your project managers, maybe the ones you've worked with in the past, maybe you currently have one working for you, maybe you are that project manager, but who is the best project manager that you know of? They work for you now. They maybe worked for you in the past. Maybe they're in another business, but you respect them. They do a ton of good work. Or maybe it's you. What is the name of the best project manager you've ever worked with? Caleb, do you want to give us a thought on this? And it can't be you, Caleb.
Can it be my brother, co-owner?
Could be your brother.
Yeah, I would say I have an uncle who was a fantastic project manager, more of the old school way. So maybe he wouldn't be a great project manager in today's world, but he got results and he pushed projects like nobody I've seen. So I'll give him the little tip of the cap here.
All right. So here's the pattern we see, right? I think the best PMs handle pressure well. They handle stress well, so they stay calm. They know how to make sure customers are happy. They know how to keep everybody moving forward, and they keep projects on track. And I think for a lot of us, these are the heroes of the business, right? Like they're the things that make, like you said, make the wheel turn. It's good to have heroes, and I think we need them. But what I've noticed over years of working with a lot of you in this industry is if we just rely on hero tactics all the time and constant firefighting, it's like so-and-so's got it, they're going to make it happen. Or if you're the owner doing a lot of this, it's like I have to step in and always make this happen. Chances are this isn't super scalable of a business you have, right? And this is where a lot of the tension lies, where it's like the systems are actually broken, causing us to constantly have to rely on hero tactics. And so today I want to get into a little bit of how we can solve this. But we'll start with introducing who's here. We've got Scott Kelley from Evolution Design Build. He's in Park City, Utah. You've been at this for quite a while, Scott. You started the business, I think, before 2008, went through some ups and downs there, which we'll speak to, and then got kind of going on the Evolution Design Build brand in 2012. You've been with BTA since 2024. And yeah, I'm excited to share your story. I'm going to give you a slide here in a second. We've got Caleb George here. You're a co-owner of Chris George Custom Homes. I think it was started by your dad many years ago. Now it's you and your brother, man in the show.
Yep.
You guys are out in Kansas City, been in business for about 40 years. So been around for a while. And how long have you been in that business for yourself? Is that all 40 years you too?
So we are 50th year this year.
50.
We're in 76. And my brother and I have been working, before we could drive. Started with the company, and it's been our only job since. So went off to school, came back right into it, much like many other contractors and home builders.
Oh, good. That's good. So in the last 7 years, you and your bro have been kind of manning the fort on this business, I imagine. Yeah.
Correct. Yeah. We elevated into, co-owners.
Cool. And then we got Jordan Coolidge from Buildertrend. So you're the principal customer success manager. You get the bird's eye view of all the good and the bad that's going on in the industry. And I'm super interested to see your perspective, just the trends that are going on when it comes to project management. So
absolutely happy to be here.
And then my name is Danny Kerr. I'm the co-founder of something called Breakthrough Academy, where we are busy systemizing contracting businesses for growth. We've been doing this for about 11 years now, and get to see, again, from the bird's eye view, all the patterns, what's going well, what's not, and work on all the fixes for a lot of you guys too. So we'll get into that today. Caleb, I want to give you a spotlight here for a second, but maybe let us know where you guys have come from. What's been your history the last few years? How did you get to the place where you're at today? You guys are growing rapidly, and I'd love for you to just kind of let everyone know where you're at.
Yeah. So again, started in 1976. My dad, he cut his teeth working for my grandpa's company. So we are third generation contractors, home builders. And, we were, for a lot of our career, we were a lot of production builders, building 100 homes. And, in the last 10 years, we've kind of transitioned our offerings into, focusing more on design, build, custom, semi-custom. We do a lot of tear downs here in the Kansas City market and some infill building, and then focusing on some rural builds and kind of some niche markets that are successful for us. After we've taken over ownership, we have turned our attention to, the processes and what my brother and I need to do to, continue to improve and scale the company.
You guys have gone through quite the evolution over the last 7 years, eh?
We have.
Yeah, it's great. Scott, you've been through all the good, bad, and the ugly, and came out on top. Tell us your story, my friend.
Yeah, my story started here in Park City many years ago in college, timber framing. Quick overview, ended up in Colorado in different areas building. I was in Kansas City as well for 12 years, running a company there, and sold that and moved back to Park City about 14 years ago. So background is definitely a trades person that was a wannabe business person. And, that's the short of it.
And so you're at 13.5 million now. When did you start to really get traction? When did things start to really move from just you managing everything to starting to really run the business?
That probably happened here. It happened at the last company in probably year 8, 9. We're 12 years here. It probably started to happen about 4 years ago. So again, about 8, 9 years.
I look forward to it. We're going to focus on that time of your life. So, okay. Here's for everyone in the chat. Let me know, what is the biggest project management issue that you have in your business right now? And we'll read through some of these. This might even steer a little bit of the conversation. But when you think through it, is it about jobs running late? Are they running over budgets? You have too many just questions coming into you directly? Are your PMs, like we said earlier, just like the firefighters of everything and constantly in reactive mode, poor handoff and sales process? Let me know what it would be. And while we're waiting for those answers to come in, Jordan, what do you see? What are some of the biggest issues you've seen over the years?
Yeah, I think a lot of the trends with project management, and one of the direct questions we ask, as someone's gearing up to utilize Buildertrend, it's like, what's broken? What are we trying to fix? What could we optimize? I think far and away, what people say, maybe not as directly, is change management, managing the changes that you're faced with, whether that be weather, material order, delivery delays, things like that. And so I think, for a lot of people, it's doing everything in their own control. Some people struggle to take care of everything in-house that they can, to limit how much that change does affect the management of those projects. And it really can become a waterfall effect where, it affects one job, which then the opportunity cost of extra time and energy takes you away from other projects or other things you could be doing for your business. And so far and away, I think change management encompasses a lot of the struggles, or what you could boil down a lot of the struggles to that I hear when it comes to project management, for sure.
Yeah, it's kind of like you make the most perfect plan ever, and then week 2, it's already off. Things are already different.
Yep.
I'm just seeing in the chat things around cost controls, accountability. We're going to get into that a bit today. A few on change orders. I actually did a really interesting episode the other day with one of our members on just mastering change orders. He's making, I think, about 32% margins. I think it was 35% margins off of his change orders now. He's incentivized his PMs to kind of want them, actually, which is different for a lot of people that don't want them. And Aaron, I don't know if we can put in the Contract Revolution link, but that episode should drop in the next month or so. It's a really fascinating episode. Just how to drive change orders to be a productive part of the company and not a drag. I think at one point he was doing $1 million in change orders and making like 2% on them. Flip that around. So, okay. So what are the signs that your project management process is probably broken? And Scott, I thought I'd get you to start here, but when did you realize that things had to change? What was going on at the time?
Looking at all the comments in the chat, I agree 100%. It's the feeling of, I would clarify, a change order, working overtime. I saw a comment about letting go of control. I've been there. I think it's when it just feels like maybe you've gone out and visited a project manager, if that's where you are, if you've hired one and you're early on. And I remember feeling like I had to go out and explain everything. I was very slow to learn that if I documented it, you mentioned systems earlier, maybe I wouldn't have to go out and talk about it every day. So it took getting away and writing down what are the things that I want to solve, and then working with other people that are smarter than I to come up with some solution.
Yeah, it's like it might be broken if you are the process.
Yes.
Okay, fair enough. Caleb, what do you think? What were some signs for you guys early on?
Amazingly similar. My brother and I were working as the sole project managers. My dad was kind of running the show from behind the scenes. He got sick and we had to elevate into ownership, sales, business running. And at that moment, we kind of looked at each other, and we had nothing written down. We had no processes, no description, no job, nothing. And so we even realized that we were running projects differently. And so knowing that this is not repeatable, it's impossible to hire if we have no information. That was really the wake-up call where, we realized we have to turn into a project management-based business and not just owner-operator on the fly, making decisions and really turning everything into a bottleneck because we can't be all places at once.
Yeah, it's kind of like the bus test. It's like, if you get hit by a bus, how long will this business last?
And on a small, like on a micro level, it goes to, even now, I think, if your project manager calls in sick unexpectedly and misses 2 days, do you or his direct report have proper visibility into that project? Do you know when the last, or can you find when the last communication with the client was, who's supposed to be on the site that day, what's the schedule supposed to be? And if not, then some of the processes need to be evaluated.
Who feels, maybe less on the chat, but who feels this right now? Like, too much of how projects get managed and the whole process of your company is locked up in you? Who feels like you need to kind of like really start to relinquish some of this in a more like methodical, intentional way? Give some yes or no's in the chats. But I think this is pretty common. This is something I see across almost every member we work with, whereas like there's just too much in their head and they're just like, well, it's just too unique. Like, it's just, I don't know how to explain it. I just got to be there to do it with them. And it's like, guys, I get it. You have very complex projects, but this is not impossible. And we're going to get into this today. Jordan, you obviously see this pattern across the board. What are some signs when you work with some of the users over at Buildertrend?
Yeah, I think one of the biggest signs that I see, when I'm chatting through, project management and how we can make improvements, is not just that every job feels like a fire drill, but some of the business owners that accept that feeling. I think it's the acceptance of everything is kind of a fire drill and we need to be a lot of places, which I think is closely tied to a lot of things living in your head and not maybe setting up some of these processes. But, on the tail of that, the unwillingness or maybe inability to set expectations or to, talk about expectations either internally with your team or even for the clients that you're serving, right? Like giving them a true vision for what to expect from that process, I think is closely tied to that as well. So those are just some of the signs that, if someone's unwilling to clarify what those expectations are that they have for their team and really, for what their clients can expect, the more likely it is that those jobs will probably feel like a fire drill over and over again.
I noticed too, like our industry has just kind of come to accept that. We're just like, yeah, that's just how we do it. I'm like, guys, like when you look outside of construction, you look at mining, you look at manufacturing, you look at other industries that have really evolved over the last 10 years, farming, you realize like we have been left behind a little bit. This is not impossible. You go look outside this industry quickly and you realize like they have figured this out at a scale far beyond any of the projects you guys are working on, at a complexity. Like I was just watching something on Starlink or space, what was it called? Starlink. The other day with Elon Musk, and I'm looking at what he's creating, and they're launching this massive new rocket. And I'm like, can you imagine what it takes to be able to do that? And yes, they do say it gets scrappy at times, but the processes that they have, the checks and balances they have along the way are incredible. And so I think all of us can just, if you just take a look outside your industry, you'll realize like, yeah, we know what? This is not an excuse. And there's enough technology and help and support and just insight these days that I think all of us can do a little bit of a better job. So, okay. Let's get into things a little bit. So I thought we'd start the conversation around just the project manager themselves. The first question I have around this, which came up from a lot of our members and people coming into this, was just like, what is the project manager's role, right? What is it? What is it not? How do we define this in the right way? And how do we make sure it's set up so that they can be successful in what they do? Scott, when we were doing our prep call, I thought it'd be good for you to start on this, but what is important in this role? What's not? What have you discovered over the last couple of years? Let me give some stories on this.
Yeah, I think from being a tradesperson and coming from the old school when I started, the project manager I used to think was the guy that knew the most about construction. You know, he could go out and spot a problem, make the phone call, you know, kind of put the fire out, really run the ship. And that's half true. What I've grown to learn is, you know, it's a person that we really want to represent our values, you know, so we have to write that, right? Like we have to get out of a mindset that we're just production. I think the more that we go at jobs, it's just the production guy is project manager. We're going to repeat the same behavior. At least that was the case for me. So I, again, had to take a step back and go, okay, I want the client experience. I'd love to have a schedule. Good communication, because if they communicate well, maybe I don't have to get involved. And so it's really grown into somebody that is proactive, manages a calendar, takes great notes. So if they're sick, someone else can go handle their job for them for that day or whatever it may be. And is a really good team player. And honestly, one of the best PMs we have, she's about my age. She's from a corporate background, not construction, but she is just excellent with clients. So I think we've got to be open-minded on what that person can be and where we recruit from.
So less about just like, do you know the trade? A little bit more about what's your executive functionality? Do you have an executive brain?
Yeah.
Okay, let's go. Caleb, what are your thoughts on this? How did you come
so
what this role is?
You know, we want our project manager to fully own the project, and it has taken some evolution to get to where we want to be. Even 2 years ago, our project manager did not really have a lot of access or visibility into our project costs. They were more on the in the field, managing the client, scheduling and producing a great product. So then we'd come into a meeting, at the end of the project, and we talk to them, and they'd be all happy. And we're looking at the margin creep at the end of a project going, well, what happened? What happened with the numbers? We lost 2% of margin, in the last 3 months of the project. And they were making decisions that impacted the finances, and they did not have, viewership of the finances, of the costs. And so it wasn't their fault. It was our fault. We were expecting something from them that they weren't even aware of. And so like from that point, we were like, we knew, we want them to be a true project manager, and we want them to control schedule, budget, quality control, and customer management, client satisfaction. So that's really where we are pushing our project managers to be, full ownership on the project.
What do you think you had them doing before that you've taken off their plate? Where like, you should not be doing this. This is actually wasting your time. I need you focused more on these higher level things.
Yeah, well, so some of it was it worked both ways. Some of the higher level stuff was, more of, maybe vendor relations or vendor availability, or, so they weren't fighting with another PM over a vendor, or maybe it's fighting over internal, not fighting over, but competing for internal resources, whether that's laborers or site supers. So we've firmly aligned one project manager with one site super as their direct report, and then implemented a director of construction, for easier access to decision making and escalations to make their job, so they can focus, get answers quicker and really focus on their project.
Okay. You'd given us this to show everybody, but you started defining this, not just in your head. So explain to everybody, what are these job descriptions? Why are they important? How do they help you with even finding the right people before you even hire them?
Yeah, and hiring is obviously super intimidating. We went, I think, 40 years of Chris George Homes without doing an interview, and we didn't have job descriptions. And so, just recently, after doing a few, and now we're more comfortable with it, it all starts with having, a very solid job description, which goes directly into their accountability and their deliverables, what they need to be doing. So we know every company, considers a project manager different things. So they might be site super, they might be something else, but you have to really have it nailed down what you are expecting for them, so the skills align with what you need.
Okay. Scott, you'd build this. We can get into this a little more in a second too, but like you had started to build your org chart. You have your project manager sitting over here. Do you want to explain the thought behind why you built it this way?
Yeah. So, it's funny. So many of us have been in that role. We just get caught in the day-to-day. I was definitely guilty of that for a long time. And we came to this org chart because we needed to, we put the deliverables obviously under the role. They're color coded so they know where they fit in the puzzle. But we needed a reporting structure so people know who to go to. It wasn't that long ago. We might have a field person going directly to director of finance about, can I pick up this tool? And they really should be going to the director of operations. So we just had to lay out something very simple of who the reporting structure is. That's one way it really helped me avoid all of the conversation. Because I'd come in and I was just like anyone else. I'd work 10, 12, 14-hour days because I made myself available. And these kind of tools have really helped them and helped minimize inefficient ways of operating.
Yeah, I think without this, it's kind of like, what's my job? It's like, well, it's a bit of everything. And I'll let you know next week. It probably will change a little bit more. And you know what? Because you're overwhelmed now, I'll do a bit of it actually myself now. And then it blurs the lines. And this starts to make it very clear. It doesn't know in the chat, but who's built this? Who actually probably needs to refine this a little bit and think through this a little better? Because even if you have built it, it's still too much coming to you or you're overwhelming your PM. Who's played around with these organizational charts before? Because it's good. It helps you know who's doing what. It also helps you know, like you said, Scott, like who reports to who. So it's not your phone constantly ringing from everybody. Jordan, again, you have a pretty good bird's eye view of this, but like, what are the patterns you're seeing when it comes to project management roles being defined in companies, where we're getting it wrong, what we need to do better?
Yeah, I actually find it really interesting. You learn a lot about companies and what they put on people's plates as you start, talking about implementing a software like Buildertrend. And I really kind of boil it down to two buckets just for simplicity purposes of like, some people describe the project manager role really as more of like a client relations or, like a production manager, if you will. Whereas other folks or other businesses will put a little bit more, kind of like Caleb was saying, as far as putting financial responsibilities and adhering to a budget and ultimately giving responsibility for, some of the finances. I think there's a little bit of a game of tug of war between like when the right time is to start to turn over some of those responsibilities, which I think natively in a small business scenario, or like when you're very first getting started, a lot of that probably is on the business owner's plate. And so, creating a world where your project managers can truly be decision makers, I think is probably the fine line of like how much decision making responsibility and in what capacities am I willing to give to my project managers is really what dictates what that role is and what those expectations are. So, less answering what I think a project manager's role should be, but more so kind of the trends that I see around, ultimately, how much decision-making responsibility do they have? How much should they have? And what should those things be? I think are key things to ponder as you kind of define what a project manager means for your company based off where you're at.
I think there's a lot of fear when you start to talk numbers with some people. They're kind of like, whoa. I don't want them to see the numbers, whether they're good or they're bad. I don't know, just Scott or Caleb, any just recommendations around this, just to let go of that for those who have just like, I don't want to show them. What did you learn when you started to show them? What happened?
Yeah, I think it just gives them the information that they need. I mean, it's so hard for them to be making decisions without seeing the numbers. And like you said, some projects are better than others, but it's like trying to hide, trying to hide the numbers from them so they don't see the variance between the projects, I think it's a fool's errand. Like they need to see, and then hopefully find that direct correlation to the success financially of a project. Also had a lot to do with timeline and communication and efficiencies, because you're really probably not going to have a financial success of a project without all those other deliverables hitting.
Yeah, and just to summarize what you guys have said, it's kind of like this is less about being really good at the craft. This is a lot more about communication, customer service, being organized, scheduling, and knowing the numbers to make good executive decisions along the way. Being able to own it a little bit more than just being a good person on the tools. Okay. All right. We had alluded to this a little bit earlier when we were talking with Scott about the org chart, but it is important now to also hold your people accountable. Know what's going on the site, but not be overbearing and take it over, and not be so recluse that you have no idea what's going on until the project's almost done and it's lost money. Caleb, you've built a lot of systems around this. I would love to just start with some of the systems you built. What's important to prepare for this properly? What have you done to just make sure you're holding your project managers accountable in a balanced way?
The biggest thing that we've learned is that the project managers need a rhythm to the management that they're getting. We would historically do just an annual review with our project managers, and that was the time where they would really get face to face with us, the owners, but we were their direct reports at that point, and it turned into like a massive information dump, just kind of chaotic. We didn't have a job description. We didn't quite know what we were evaluating, but we just say, hey, you had a pretty good year. Awesome. We'll talk next year. And it was frustrating on all levels. And BTA was very instrumental in really hammering home. So now we are on a GSR biweekly, so goal set review meeting biweekly, where we are really focused on their core deliverables of schedule, quality control, client satisfaction, and budget. And so our director of construction's meeting with them biweekly to specifically discuss any concerns, any flashing red lights that need to be addressed in any of those things. They know that they have this face-to-face with their direct report. And so I think it's eliminated a lot of the haphazard communication between them and just saying, hey, I'm going to talk to this guy on Tuesday. So I'll get a lot of the answers on Tuesday, or we can talk this over on the next meeting. So it's been just really important for them to get the management that they need, and for us to get the viewership of how they were doing, how they were feeling, specifically related to their.
What's the rough agenda of this meeting? How long is it? If you were to walk through, like for everyone to hear it and understand, what are you doing in this meeting? Kind of. So
we try to keep them to 30 to 45 minutes, but we try to leave out just standard production meeting information, like, hey, the drywaller showed up today. It would be more or less of, hey, a couple of the schedule items I'm dealing with is. Drywall company is running short on manpower. So instead of 5 days, they're 15 days out, and we need to see either find another drywaller for the next project, or, see if we can shake the tree a little bit and get some better results. And that would be something that would be discussed at that meeting. And then it would go to the same aspects. It's this client's a little, she didn't like the overage or the a change order cost. So we kind of negotiated with the vendor and we got it down a little bit to hopefully get her back on board with the project. So we would run through like kind of those I mean, they are project related, but they are more high level versus, my framer took 2 extra days to frame this house. That's more of a production meeting update versus they're needing some support to get the answers that they need. And we can see how they are addressing the problems in these specific categories. Awesome.
I'm going to back us up. I'm going to show a couple of things here, but like from Scott's org chart, you can see here, he's like starting to think through the deliverables by role, which is like the first step to all of this. And then what Caleb was showing earlier with job descriptions, those are making their way into the job description. So they're basically tying one into the other. And then finally, if you look closely here, they're bringing that back into a biweekly conversation where it's like, here's your annual deliverables that are in your employment agreement that we've defined in the org chart. Here's your numbers you need to achieve. And then let's go down to the micro and look at each project you're working on, right? What's the contracted amount, gross profit target, percent complete on this project? Probably the biggest questions to ask every 2 weeks is it on schedule and is it on budget, right? And then based on that, what are the milestones along the way? And so this gives you a high enough level view of what's really going on in the projects, but not so much that you have to micromanage everything, and helps set expectations early on, right from when you hire the person that, hey, I'm gonna coach you and work with you on achieving these numbers and achieving these deliverables by year end. And every 2 weeks, we're gonna hammer this home. So Scott, you've been implementing this for a while now with BTA, with Breakthrough Academy, but what have you done wrong here? What have you fixed? What have you learned through all this?
Well, reading a lot of the comments, I just kind of laugh because I know all too well many of these questions. I think a simple answer is a GSR. I think it's a buzzword to a lot of people that it seems like, what's in it for me? How is it going to help? And I think just to answer that, just write down and start with the 5 things that their job role mainly is there for. And my goals and Caleb's are pretty aligned. And I assume most everybody in here, from what I've read, one person's talking about fully on top of the aspect of the project design, the schedule, the budget, continuous communication with the client, and then add safety. That's ours. So you could start with a GSR, just write those things down and ask your PM to spend 15 minutes before they meet you weekly. And really the difference is you're not going out there and asking the same questions over and over and it's not prepared. You're asking them to prepare an update for you. And so these things, like it's actually counterintuitive to think these are time consuming, because what's time consuming is taking our time and going out and asking all the questions. That's essentially the simplistic view of reporting. Get the project managers to continuously make sure their calendar's updated. That's like our question, is your calendar updated? Have you missed any, critical path areas? And so it's getting them to think about that to answer, but then they're solving their own problem. So we're just trying to get them to improve. And if we've written out a really simple job review or job role and responsibilities, and we're then better equipped to go out and provide a higher level of training when we meet with them, whether you have a production manager that oversees it, or years ago it was me that was the production manager. I had to go out and check and train. So, I don't know, that's been that mindset has really helped that.
To kind of your point too, it's like there's a big difference when you're doing these meetings and you're the one driving the whole meeting, being like, this is what I see, this is what I think, this is what I need you to go do, versus them driving the whole meeting. Here's the things I went through last week. Here's some questions I have. Can you clear this out of my way? Like, your job as the manager or owner of your PMs is to clear out obstacles for them and give them permission to go drive. It's not to go and tell them exactly how to go do every little thing. That's their job. And the more you take that from them, the more they'll just start to become complacent. And I think this process forces them to prep, think ahead of time, come in prepared. The worst thing you can do in a meeting is like no prep and just like, so what do you think? How are things going? It's like off the top of their dome. They're giving you random answers on a Tuesday. It's like, get them to sit down. This is usually done on a Friday. They'll meet with you guys on a Monday. They're coming to you with what they need to get cleared and permission forward. And you're just checking and giving them thoughts and advice, but it's their project, not yours. Right. Okay. Just to help everyone out with this. So Aaron, if you want to put a link for everybody on this, we're going to give you guys a few of these resources. So the employment agreement that we were just showing, this will give you a structure to build a proper accountable employment agreement for your project managers. That dashboard we were just using or just showing, we're going to give you a free template on that as well. This should help you just see the structure and how we build some of this. You can make it your own. You can do what you like with it, but it'll help kind of take some of those concepts we're talking about today and build them into reality. Buildertrend is also built out an accountability playbook. So just a rule book on how to do this well. And there's a few other things we're going to get into in a second, but there's a communications plan in there, a scheduling playbook, a few other things that we'll talk about in a sec here. But If you haven't gotten those, make sure you click on the link. I think it's right there for you guys on the little orange link, and you can download that stuff from there. Okay. So actually, while everyone's downloading that, Caleb, just any advice for people using these tools? Because they're going to get them for the first time. Like, what should they use them for? What should they not? What's a simple, just like quick win on these things?
I think the most, just start using them and see what works and what, there's going to be some parts of these sheets, because this is where we started in terms of formatting our sheets. And then you see what works, what doesn't work, what, inputs that you're not needing to update weekly, depending on your business and your structure. But it is an awesome starting point to get the ball rolling and to add or subtract, the necessary info that you're going to want in those, weekly or bi-weekly meetings. So just use it and basically have it evolve from there.
Cool. All right. Yeah, I find with all the members we work with, this isn't the only one, but this is one of the top things our members are telling us. Like, once this rhythm's in place, everything changes. You go from constantly having to firefight and manage people to them coming to you and actually being a leader of those people versus just their boss. So it's good. All right. Now let's get into project management itself. And so again, pulling from you guys, pulling from our members, the biggest thing that I see across the board is improper communication or broken communication. And I would love, Scott, if you can start on that, but like, what systems do you have in place for good communication as the project's progressing with a customer to the company to make sure everything and everybody is on the same page?
Yeah, the first thing that comes to mind, I had a Sandler sales coach years ago, and I'd go in and talk about challenges. And one of the things that I kind of have kept in my head is you can't get mad at people for doing things you didn't tell them they couldn't do. So if we go out and we get frustrated because they didn't read our minds, if we don't have it written down, if we haven't trained on that, it's kind of our fault as a leader, as an owner. So yeah, documentation. And for me, that was a really intimidating thing. I love coming up with ideas, but implementation is my weakness. So I think it kind of gets into a keynote speaker we had at the Winter Summit. Cameron Harold talked a lot about this. Is you don't have to be a big company, but if you have anybody else, if you write out like the different buckets for a project manager or just the different areas of the company, what are you good at and what are they good? Utilize somebody that you could work with, and maybe they write talk. But just come up with something that you want these PMs to do if you don't have anything, and you can just schedule 30 minutes a week just to review that and build up. Keep it really simple for you to do. But I think it's about writing it down, and then you can get more advanced with the tools, with the schedule, with the job note, with the reporting. I would just say start if you have.
Can you speak to some of these? I've got some screenshots, but one of the big things you use is job notes. What do you use them for? How do they work? What have you learned in just using this? Where does this help?
Yeah, so we're moving at warp speed today with technology. We used to use a simpler note. We went on to, we use Google Docs because it's live for syncing. So we have a lot of people in and out of the note. We have 5 field people that work under project managers, superintendents. So there's a lot of people in each job note. And the job note serves as, you have your basic information on the homepage. We have built on the side tab there, it's basically everything from the sales process all the way through the warranty. We had included all the homeowner documents. We need a signature for everything we do. Every job we do is pretty much cost plus, so they have to approve it. And that's a really simple way of checks and balances for a production manager to go out and see if their schedule says we're going to do trim next week. We better have the trim selection done and signed off from the homeowner for our field to go in and perform. It's just, how do we communicate without phones? How do we not have to call or text or have a conversation? How can people follow a system to move to the next step? That's our goal.
Okay. And then the other big thing is within Buildertrend, but you do a client check-in, and this is kind of the backend that you use for this, for client updates. Do you want to speak to this?
Sure. This is probably our favorite tool. At least as an owner, I love it because I can manage all of our jobs going. Each project manager fills out a report. It can populate how many pictures you want in there very quickly. And The reporting, you can have AI generate something to start, and you can tweak it, or you can do it from scratch. But this project manager, I love, it's to the point. They have highlights this week. There's photos in there. You can see the calendar on the right if they want to click into things, and then it's what's coming up next week. And that's a really great way that our whole team can go in here and see how the job's going within 3 to 5 minutes. So it's awesome. Our homeowners make less phone calls. It really keeps them up to date. There's repairs maybe under, things that are behind. We need change orders signed before we can perform, things like that. So it's a nice accountability tool to inform them.
I'm curious in the chat, how many of you are using this right now? You use client updates in Buildertrend, maybe a different system, but how many have a client update portal? You have a regular scheduled meeting with them and you're using this thing properly. You can give me some no's too. It's fine if you don't, but how many are using this right now? Just be curious to know. Let me know. All right. While you guys are doing that, Caleb, I wanted to get into just some more of the, I guess you call it expectation setting and making sure that everyone's on the same page. But you do a project kickoff and you have a process behind this. Do you want to speak to this a little bit?
Yeah. So during our project kickoff, we're bring the client and the project manager together. What we really want to do is just set the expectations of what the communication is going to be, when the set meetings are going to occur, the weekly updates, the daily logs, and just making sure that everybody knows how the communication is going to occur, when it's going to occur. We are always available for emergency calls, emergency on-site meetings, but we want them to know that there is a schedule and a method to the madness of the communication. Like we will be meeting, post framing to do a framing walkthrough. So they're aware ahead of time and can kind of pencil that in. And it's kind of been us supporting our project managers and trying to focus the communication in a more deliberate fashion than just, ad hoc, 3 texts a day, just randomly asking about a range size. We were trying to get the information there, but really, Buildertrend, we sell our communication and how we are at it. That's a selling point for us. And Buildertrend does really help the backbone of that with the daily logs, but also just the visibility that the client can get from their selections, from their change orders, pictures, the weekly updates. It just helps them, the schedule. It helps them be more involved without, having to call the project manager or set a meeting just to get a simple. And so I do think it's been, clients love the access to it, and it's really helped us and taken some of the day-to-day minutia communication off of our project managers and digitized it. So
I want to point one thing out in this. There's lots in here that's good, but it's like phone calls. We are always free to support you during business hours.
Yeah.
Small things, right? But it's like those expectations set before the project ever goes off is way better than when there's a massive problem and they're like, why didn't you call me at 4 a.m. or whatever? It's just like, we've talked about this. So actually, we'll I'm going to give you guys another download link in a sec here or near the end. But this project communication plan is a templated version of this that all of you can build a good setup for your customers. So before the project kicks off, who do you contact for what, when, whose responsibilities are what, and it really sets the rules for you, your customer, and everyone else involved in the project. So it's not just random sprays of we need help and reactionary stuff. So we'll get that into a package for you guys, and I'll give you a link in that in a little bit here. Jordan, just just know, what's the difference from those who do this well and those who don't?
Yeah, it's interesting. Like Scott and Caleb's dialogue here kind of revolved, I think justifiably so, around communication with clients and outgoing from company, to consumer, I guess, if you think of it that way. And as I think about this question, I actually think about how communication internally or lack thereof can make or break your project management. And I think maybe would make some of those things difficult that Scott and Caleb are talking about. So, it's interesting here at Buildertrend. we do meetings with folks, and sometimes it's just the business owner. Sometimes it's just a group of field crew members where we're teaching the mobile app, or maybe we're talking through workflows. But it's interesting because sometimes I have meetings with just a group of project managers, like no business owners there, no one there. And they'll make sure I'm not recording it, of course, before they start talking about this, but they'll maybe start talking about how they're unsure of what they're supposed to do, or, of course, it's a place for them to vent a little bit about what's going on. And so as I reflect on some of those conversations, especially with some of the groups of project managers, it really, I think the communication or lack thereof internally of not clarifying expectations or what success looks like, whether it be with Buildertrend or just what day-to-day their job, what they need to do to show success or to be successful, I think is a big missing link when we think about, company leadership to, some of those individual contributors. I think a lot of times there's a lack of direction or understanding, or, just a clear-cut conversation about what those expectations are. And that lack of clarity, I think, can have, larger ramifications than what a lot of people probably realize when they're first bringing on new team members like that. So anyway, that's one place that I really do see a breakdown, and it has many side effects thereafter that can make things difficult for a company, for sure.
Yeah, and to summarize this, I think what we're talking about is good expectations set up front with a project communication plan before things kick off. And then whether it's weekly or bi-weekly, some sort of project status update that you and your customer are doing together on a regular basis. I would recommend these are in the calendar and they're set on repeat with your customer invited, so that they know when they're coming into these things and they're scheduled ahead of time. Otherwise, these become reactionary things. And what I've noticed over years is what this really does is it's a forcing function. It forces the conversation. Because whether it's your customer or it's your PM or it's you, people tend to avoid conflict. And so they let it boil up and they let it sit for far too long. And by the time you're hearing about it, it's already too late. The emotions have already kind of gone through the roof. And so this is a time where we can just get through everything properly, make sure everyone's clear on the same page and connected. And I wouldn't just make these ad hoc things. It's in the beginning, this is how we always kick off projects. And what do you guys recommend? Is it bi-weekly, weekly? How often do you recommend doing a project status update?
I think weekly.
Yeah. So it's in the calendar. This is a part of their role. Okay. Let's get.
Danny, I have one more thing on there.
Sure.
You don't mind? Well, just again, I love reading these comments. I'm psyched to see all this. But I think this homeowner, we have the same thing. That was I like to add what Chris and Caleb had with the homeowner packet is we're all free to write whatever policy or rules we want to operate in our company. And homeowners really appreciate that. The communication one regarding PMs, they were getting calls in the evening, weekends, there was no private time. And we're well, what if we, created something that stated our hours and how to communicate with us, define what's really a high level priority that needs to be covered. And, and those things really helped establish that first part. The second thing is, I think I found you guys at year 27, 28 in this industry, and we created all these documents like that. I'm seeing a lot of comments regarding how tedious, and it absolutely is if you go out on your own. I wish I would have had all your documents many, many years ago. For those that haven't used them, have a team meeting, a team huddle, find out what the biggest problem is, and just handle them one at a time, just start with any of these templates, and you can make them your own, but they're great to get you going. And then having, again, we're on Buildertrend as well, having a calendar, and all of our budgets are live. We're cost plus, so the PM is fully transparent on every allowance. It really helps minimize the conversation. If you just prepare them for what's coming up for decisions, we deal with the same thing where there's delays, but these things, those three things, having a calendar, giving them a rule book up front and how you operate, these things will immediately help you, and your PMs will thank you.
Yeah, these are the simple, quick wins. We don't need to make this overcomplicated. Yeah. It's good. I want to get into project planning capacity, but also just to speak to a little what you're talking about with these resources and what we've been doing with you guys over the years. I want to talk to you guys about implementing these things properly. So, Jordan, just from Buildertrend's perspective, you guys have been working with a ton of this industry. You probably shaped a lot of this industry over the years, but what is Buildertrend doing? How are you? Why are you guys in this industry? What can everybody benefit from here today?
Yeah, I'll be honest with you. I think for Buildertrend, it's actually more simple than what people realize. Like project management, like whether it be the section of tools within Buildertrend or just project management in your company, is really the hub that everything runs through, for your business. And so as the schedule, shifts, you can notify people more frequently, or, the daily logs that we were talking about before, being a nice central place for on-site updates and, client updates, kind of a close cousin to that of, utilizing AI to provide these proactive updates for folks. That's where, your end consumer starts to really reap the benefits of, what ultimately was a software decision. It's a set of tools, and really Buildertrend's calling card is consolidating. We're not focused as much on the financial side of things specifically in this call, but like consolidating your project management, where you manage your schedules alongside where you're housing your finances, unlocks a whole different world when you compare and contrast that to, maybe not very, joined up like spreadsheets that people are typically using. Sometimes I have a separate, software for different pieces of the puzzle. And so, the ability, I think, to give visibility to a lot more people at your company in one central tool to the things, or some of the things that really make and break their day to day, is ultimately where Buildertrend succeeds. And so all of that to say, I love my job because I get to watch and be a part of builders truly changing their company. Buildertrend just happens to be a set of tools that enables folks to do that. And so, that's really Buildertrend's calling card is consolidating information, and really how it starts through the project management functions, even as you onboard this software, for sure.
Yeah, you guys have evolved this industry, I think, in a lot of ways. You guys have pioneered a lot of things that I think everybody has in their minds. They have in spreadsheet, they have in 6 different places. You put it in one place and allow the company to actually grow versus just constantly be scattered. So yeah, we'll get into a little bit on Buildertrend in a second. So I'll tell you guys a bit about BTA. So Breakthrough Academy, our whole role is to systemize contracting businesses for growth. Scott and Caleb, you guys have been members for a few years now, and we work on a lot, right? We work on your financial controls, your defined roles, your hiring systems, your training systems, your sales and marketing processes, and actually help make sure you have a strategic plan to follow. But for a lot of us, it's like if you're realizing what got you here is no longer getting you there, like you're a bit stuck, right? But the business has huge potential. You need systems, you need good people. You're already working on a lot of this stuff, and you want to grow the business and have a leadership team around you. Like this is what we do every single day. We kind of cut through the mud, get the stuff done with you right once extremely well, and so we can build a business of value, right? Because I think that's what all of us are trying to do is like, let's build something of value. Let's have some fun doing it and stop being the stopgap and the bottleneck behind everything. So if you've outgrown startup mode and you're starting to build into a lot of these things, we should definitely have a chat, and we'll give you a chance to do so. Our whole role is to help you do this a lot faster, a lot more streamlined, and to have a lot of fun doing it. So we will give you guys this quick, but if you haven't got these templates yet, make sure you do. Aaron, if you want to put up a link for everybody. But ultimately, I think it's kind of comes down to this, like you can do this solo, which I think a lot of us do, and we'll give you some free tools today to go do this. And I think it'll give you a good start. But if you want to fast track this a little bit, you want some accountability, you'd like to work with a coach and some other members, like you're seeing here with Scott and Caleb, we could get through this a lot faster. This doesn't have to be reinventing this all on your own. So I encourage you at the bottom, you're going to see as you fill out this form, Aaron, if you want to put up the link, we can basically have a chat with you. We'll kind of stop talking like we are today and just listen for a good 45 minutes and see what's really going on and see if we can kind of identify your bottlenecks and see if what we do would help. Similar with Buildertrend, they're offering a free sit down with them. And if you're in Buildertrend already, but probably not using the tool effective enough, or if you haven't got a good project management software, I would highly recommend booking a time with them as well. So there's a chance to do that. Aaron will put up a link for everyone. There it is, bottom left corner. You put it in the chat as well, and we can have that conversation. Just, I don't know, Scott, Caleb, you guys have been in this world with BTA and Buildertrend for a long time. What's any feedback, thoughts, advice for people looking into this?
Yeah, I think with Buildertrend, I saw a comment earlier, and I could agree 100. I couldn't agree more. I agree 100% that if you make the commitment, it's only as good as everybody committing to it. So I was not that person to learn it. We had somebody that did that back then. It was a lot of chats, but we'd get immediate response, or you could call and schedule with a coach. So you have to commit some time to learn it. And if you put that investment in, it's really, really proven to be a real big part of our company. And, you know, with Breakthrough, we came in with those 6 steps you had. We had a lot of those established. I'd say we had most of the documents, but the value for me is, you know, having a peer group, being held accountable. There were things I still needed to systematize. You know, we wrote a lot of SOPs that I hadn't thought of. And so just being a part of something I found value. That's why I'm so part of it. You know, none of us know it all, no matter how long you've been doing it. And I constantly learn. So those are 2 things I've received out of the 2 companies.
And I was super skeptical on Breakthrough Academy when we joined 3-4 years ago. My brother kind of pushed it on me, and you know, I was like, if we're gonna do it, let's lean in and haven't regretted it once. I mean, it's just it's nice, the support, the accountability, the documentation, and they, you know, a lot of it is just guiding you in an order of maybe you know what you need to do, but not the order, or you know, it's been instrumental in our growth over the past. I think we've been members for 3 years now, and then with Buildertrend, just lean in. You know, if you're using it for a couple things, I too, you know, add more, because that's something that for us has been a kind of not a never-ending process, but we are you know, working to engage more of the capabilities of the platform, because they're always changing and increasing what they can do.
Yeah, I think the message here is, like, this industry is evolving quickly. I think everyone's feeling that right now. We have a chance to professionalize our organizations, and it doesn't have to be as hard as you think. Right now, I think we have active over 500 companies that we're working with. Buildertrend, I don't even know. You can tell me how many active labels you guys have, but it's many, many thousands. And a lot of the stuff you guys are figuring out on your own has already been figured out, right? You do not need to reinvent the wheel. I get that you need to make it your own. I get it's your brand, and it's super important, but we can support each other in this industry. We don't need to keep our cards close to our chest. There's so much benefit in sharing openly. And when I watch our members go through this, there's just a certain level of accountability I think all of us need. Because it's easy to go take care of the stuff we love to go do. It's hard to do the stuff that we don't like to do. And often that's working on the business when we're busy taking care of all the fires that we've got in the company. So I encourage you, sit down. I think for anyone, just have a chat with both organizations and start to see where you could basically get some support, get some help. You don't need to do this on your own. So take some time if you guys fill out that form. We'll also be giving you guys a big resource package to help you no matter what. But if you'd like to get a call with us, just make sure you check off yes. If you'd like to get a call with Buildertrend, just make sure you check off yes. All right, let's keep going. We've got another half hour. The other thing I wanted to really get into with you guys was streamlining project planning capacity. And so, Jordan, I thought I'd just start with you on this because, again, you have a good bird's eye view, but what are the blockers and excuses that people have when it comes to doing this properly or putting a system around this? Because it seems to change all the time, right? This is the constant change.
Time. I don't have time to take a step back and work on the business. I think kind of being trapped in, like, I'm running projects, not running a business from a business owner's perspective. And I think there's many reasons why people probably feel that way. I do think that's one big hindrance for folks. And another one that I see mainly probably because where Buildertrend typically comes into the picture of someone who maybe has open themselves to that conversation and they're looking to streamline their planning and capacity, is this isn't like a one time I put in 3 months worth of effort and now everything is set and I can kick my feet up and not really think about this. I think as your business continues to evolve, this should be kind of something at the undertone of really how you're running your business is constantly, looking in a healthy way. You don't need to dwell on it, but looking for ways that you can streamline now, because your reality today as a business looks different than it did a year or two ago or 10 years ago. And it will look different a year from now, 2 years from now, 10 years from now, as the industry evolves, as you mentioned, Danny, and just you and your company continues to evolve. So the ability and willingness to revisit this conversation and really give it real intentionality behind how you're running your business and how you're trying to set up your employees for success, I think is really key in that regard.
You know what I think about when I think about this? I think about what is really shifting right now is the customers demanding what I would call like the Amazon experience. Do you know what I mean? They're like, well, Amazon gets it to me in a day with no issues. Why can't you build my house in the same way? It's like, well, maybe they're a little different. But like the reality is that is where we're going. And we have to evolve and adapt to this because this is what the industry is asking of all of us. And so think about the complexity that they have to go through to get you your toothbrush on a Tuesday, right? I think we can do our part to start to do a better job here. And so, Caleb, I think I'll get you to start on this a little bit, but what has been your journey in optimizing this? I was super blown away with how much revenue you guys do versus how many project managers you actually run to produce that revenue. Start there if you'd like, but what are you doing? What's been the evolution of this?
Yeah, so much like probably many of us, the planning and capacity was very much a gut, was just in our gut. We are just kind of going, hey, I feel like we're doing good. We got starts coming. Everything's okay. But then I would run into it. We ask a lot of our project managers, and we'd run into a situation where if I just felt they were getting a little overloaded and we had, 2 projects starting, I would hold back the projects and not assign them to a project manager. And I would just, then I found myself managing those projects. I was the one, pulling the permit and scheduling the excavators because I didn't want to stress my PMs out. I've been trying for years to get out of project management, and here I am back, like doing what I'm trying to hire other people to do. And it wasn't, part of it was just not planning, not evaluating properly the projects, because all projects are not the same. We do spec builds. We do, they're still semi-custom or custom, but we work with clients. We build on our own. And so depending on location, scope, homeowner, complexity, square footage, we have kind of put together a system to evenly distribute the projects among our project managers to maximize their output, and to also know, if we have a new job coming up, which PM should that go to, and does that overload them, or and so it's factoring in stage and timeline and location and all these little factors that, again, we kind of had in our head, but we never put down on paper. We might just be like, hey, Hayden's got 5 jobs, Luke's got 5 jobs. Even if Luke had 5 homeowners that are building $2 million homes, and Hayden has a bunch of spec homes at $1.2 million. So they're different projects, require different stuff. So we tried to even the playing field and hopefully more accurately determine how much each project manager can handle. And this, to me, the reason I built it was, when do we need to hire another project manager? And that's kind of the next, that's using this kind of saying, hey, our guys are maxed at 7 jobs, at various phases. If we get up to 8, 9, like we have to hire. So that's really kind of where this, tracking came from.
Yeah. You're looking at every piece to optimize people's time and not overwhelm. Can you just tell us how much revenue are you guys projecting this year, and how many PMs are taking care of that revenue right now?
34 million, and 3 project managers. We have a 4th that we just elevated director of construction. So we show 4 on this sheet. He's got 2 jobs that he's finishing out, and then he's going to not manage any projects. He's taking over more high level escalations and large scale planning and strategic stuff.
This is pretty good. This is like you're approaching basically 10 million per project manager.
Yeah,
this is a pretty efficient operation. Any just key learnings from people listening right now? Like, what should they be thinking about when it comes to being able to optimize at that level? one or two good tips.
Yeah, I think it's making sure the office staff, the pre-construction staff has everything in line, making sure the information's documented, take away some of the simple, repetitive, whether it's uploading stuff to Buildertrend, try to take that off of their plate and let them do what they do best and provide, a good experience to the client and build a good house versus, having to, upload the permit to Buildertrend. Like maybe have an office admin do that and take some of that stuff off, and then just make sure all the information's there and they have to go searching for it. Because if they're looking for answers or looking for information that they should have, it's just a time suck and a loss of efficiency.
People are asking too, just like how many supers do you have running this? Like they're wondering what's the support around this person.
Yeah, so each project manager has a very qualified site super working under them. So like we think about it, our site supers in the field pushing the schedule that the project manager lays out and updating them. They're contributing with the daily logs. They're taking a lot of pictures. They're trying to keep the project manager in the office as much as possible. And then above them, the director of construction is also helping with, looking for potential bottlenecks in the schedule, addressing quality control issues that need to be escalated. So they are getting support both above and below them.
So this is incredible. A lot of people want your tracker. This is good. So Scott, you're within Buildertrend managing the schedules. Just speak to us how you use it. I'm sure some of you use schedule in Buildertrend, but what do you found work here? And how does this help you guys?
Yeah, so for, this is just a weekly view. You can expand it for those of you that are on, has that plus thing on the bottom. So there's probably a lot more entries per day, but trying in an effort to keep things simple. That's what I'm always looking for, just simple communication. This example, you can see we're on I guess it's a Thursday. There's a little blue dot of what day of the week this screenshot was, but the thing that we look at is like the ones on the left earlier in the week that were single day tasks. They're checked off and they're shaded brown. That just indicates it's done. So if anybody goes in, we can get a quick glance and see how the job's going. I don't go out and check jobs that often. My production manager's out there weekly, but my sales manager, different people can look at this and we can just get a quick screenshot. You can do the coloring however you want. For us, orange is when our field people are needed. Red are inspections, clients in town, like high level things we need to pay attention to. But we use this view monthly, and then we'll get into the Gantt chart. And Buildertrend's cool because you can connect things like for critical path. If you get the foundation done, or like here we have the shear wall that's connected to house wrap because we have to pass certain inspections. And so it's kind of neat that you have that ability. You got to spend some time to learn it, but if one thing moves, it can adjust what would be affected down the road. And so taking the time to learn that, it's an example I think of. You got to go slow, learn how to go fast, because now when we move that shear wall, if it falls behind it, it affects or it moves everything that's versus trying to remember.
Right.
That's been really cool.
Yeah, so it's basically just adjusting on the fly as the project as change happens, as we talked about earlier. It's taking everything into account and managing and monitoring to make sure expectations from the subs to the customer, to the project management team internally, everyone's aware how slowly. Yeah. I'm just gonna bring in one extra lens into this for you guys. This is something that a lot of our coaches work on with our members, but we bring overhead into the equation when we start building schedules. So we start to look at, based on how you're scheduling the projects and based on when your payment schedule with your customers coming in, are you going to make money on a month-to-month basis? Or are you going to hit net deficit in your account at any given time? Be honest with me in the chat, but how many of you in the last 2 years, 3 years have actually had some pretty big cash flow issues due to the way that things have been scheduled? Maybe you had some gaps in the schedules. Maybe you didn't look at this until a little too late, but you can give me some yeses and nos in this. And I asked you to be honest if you can be, but I think this has been something I've watched over the last couple of years. A lot of people got a little bit too tight, a little bit too fast. This tool allows us to see a year in advance. Is the way we're building this schedule and the way we're setting up our progress payments the right way for our organization to be financially and fiscally stable along the way? So you can see here, there's a forecasted budget, and you can see all the issues along the way where we're going to be net deficit throughout each month. And how, as we get into the actuals and start to adjust things, we can start to have a much more like steady cash flow position throughout the entire year. The biggest thing is we're just pitting against our invoices, our planned invoices, against the overhead that we have for the organization. And it becomes pretty clear pretty fast where the issues are going to lie. So this is something we do with a lot of our members pretty early on. And it brings to light, I think, for a lot of us, like, yes, it's good to be very efficient with what the customer needs, what we need to get done in the production schedule. How does that look financially for our company? And is this sound? There's just an extra view on this. Jordan, again, you speak with a lot of members, a lot of users over at Buildertrend, but just any thoughts on streamlining, production planning, capacity? Any just final words of advice on this?
Yeah. I mean, I know I already said, like, it's something to revisit. It's something, you know, that's ongoing. I think ultimately getting started with where you are, right? So it may seem extra manual, whether you're building something out in Buildertrend or for the very first time trying to get what's out of your head onto paper so that you can start to disseminate that information. No matter how simple or manual it may feel, getting started is the absolute biggest key to this. I think there's a lot of companies of all different, you know, I got generational companies that have been around for 30 plus years. I got companies that just started 3 months ago. The ability to make the decision that this is important for your business is the very first step. And I know that sounds really cheesy, but like, it truly, truly is the first step. And it can be, you know, kind of scary to enter that world of admitting maybe what it takes to get you where you hopefully want to go based off your business goals. But just get started. Like, no matter how you need to get the ball rolling, do it, because the momentum will pick up. And much like Caleb and Scott have said, other people at the company are there to help you in this streamlining process. So it's not something that needs to be done alone. It may start with you as maybe one of the leaders at your company, but it'll pick up momentum if you can make that decision to actually make it a priority. That would be my challenge.
Yeah. And I think the shift in mindset a bit too is like seeing your business as the most important project of the year.
Yep.
Right. Because it's easy for us to be like, this is the big one. This is the $1.2 million one we booked. Everything goes into it, all resources, all time, all effort. And then you neglect your business, which is the biggest, most important project long-term. That thing's going to live a lot longer than that one big project you booked this year. And I think it's a bit of a discipline around that, around priority and just like what you deem important. You know, a lot of people will work in what we call like high important, high urgency tasks and things every single day. And I get it. And I think we kind of need to in some element of our job. But can you square away 5 hours a week to work on things that are highly important, but not that urgent, which is ultimately the future of your organization, right? You're building your own future. It's like, do you want to thank your future self for all the work that your past self did? Or do you want to live in the stuff that you set up for yourself and just threw all the crap down the road, right? Did you keep kicking the can? So it's a good question to think through and just a bit of a shift in mindset. Scott, Caleb, final question for you guys. What advice would you give yourself 5 years ago? What's the one thing, if you go back and tell your past self, travel back in time, what would you tell yourself?
I think for me, you know, like for just a tidbit, like after getting off this Zoom call, how many are going to run out and go check a job? If you could take 10 minutes and just write down 2 or 3 key things that are driving you crazy. You don't have to come up with a solution, but just, I would run off this call longer than that, probably 5 years ago. It would have just been like, sometimes just carve out, if you can't do 5 hours, do 30 minutes a week. Do whatever you can do. Because it's overwhelming when you're in the week. But just start looking for solutions. Like, take time. I really like what you said, Danny, that, you know, that this company is going to outlive the biggest job you have. And then you're 51 like me, and you've been doing this for 3 decades, and you realize that, like, there's always this next job, there's always this next headache. Just don't continue to deal with the same headache. So just make a commitment to yourself and just start to knock them one at a time. I mean, I think that's the biggest thing. Is when I took the time, my biggest lesson probably in business was I would be on a sales call, a project manager would reach out because they always needed me, and I'd call them back an hour or two later, to make all these calls. And they're like, why are you calling? And I was like, you called me? And they're like, oh, I got it figured out. And I started to realize that sometimes maybe I was the problem. I made myself too accessible, thinking I was needed everywhere all the time. And so if we can work on getting a little more structure for our people and let them, you know, give them the tools to, but give them a little freedom to make their own choices. That was a really big aha moment.
We want to feel wanted. We want to feel needed. Actually, it's called I call it mother hen syndrome. I have it too. It's like, I just want to be able to support you and I feel good doing it, but then I create dependency on myself in the process. And it's just like, allow your people to learn and be more independent from you. And it takes a little bit of letting go, you know, called, like in Canada, we call it like gripping the stick too hard. It's like, just let go. That's good.
Yeah.
Caleb, final thoughts, advice from 5 years ago to now.
I think my advice would be to past self would be, don't let crisis force the change that you know needs to occur. And we were so guilty of that with processes and systems, but also hiring. We would wait for an emergency. We would wait for somebody to give us his notice, and then it's like, oh shoot, now we need to go find a PM and we need to have them up and running in 60 days. And it's very daunting. And so I think just, a lot of us know what we need to do, but doing it is a different world and, it's a different animal. And so I think don't be proactive in that, in all aspects. We're super guilty of it.
What do you think happened? Like, this is like everyone would know this. Everyone's like, yes, I know I need to do this, but I still just keep going back to my old ways. What switch flipped for you or for your family where it's just like, we're actually doing this now? For us, it was forced. I mean, it was forced, like the, kind of in your face of, we could not maintain the status quo because we lost my dad and we like lost an uncle who had worked for my dad for 40 years. So really the training wheels came off, and because if not, we might have just, hey, we're doing good. We're making money. Everything's okay. We can keep, doing, kind of the same old hamster on a wheel. But it would have been very difficult to, to scale in any capacity. So we were really forced to. So again, I'm more impressed by people who just like have that aha moment and they go, well, we just need to do this. Like, it's not going to get any better. You need a forcing function. Just like your PMs need a forcing function.
Exactly.
That's ours. Exactly. It's true. I think all of us, we're human beings. We tend to avoid pain until we actually have to go through it. And I think there is a bit of a forcing function that all of us need. So whether we can be that for you or not, all good. But I think all of you need something, I think, to move the needle, because you can't keep doing the same thing and expecting it to kind of change organically. So, all right, everyone, thanks for staying on with us late. I hope this was valuable. This is just a good, I think, round table of good, smart humans. And for all of us out there in the industry, my one thought, loosen your grip a little bit, take a little bit of time, work on the business. Things are evolving quickly, and I think a lot of you are on this for all the right reasons, which is to learn and evolve and develop your own organization. But my challenge to you is to implement some of these things. Take one of these ideas from today and make sure it actually becomes a part of the organization. Don't just have this be an hour of cool thoughts that you write down on paper. Where's it going? When is it starting? And what are you going to do about it? If you haven't yet, make sure you get the resources that we've offered here. There's a lot here for you to get kind of a head start. And if you haven't yet booked a time with Buildertrend or Breakthrough Academy, I encourage you to start the conversation. Let's see if there's a fit. Let's see if there's a real conversation to be had. It's okay if it's not right now. I think all of us, ultimately, we just need to get started working on the organization. If anything, I'll probably point out where you should start. So get a time booked with us, get the resources. Let's rock and roll. Scott, thank you so much for your time, man. You have so much. I'm sure you're a busy dude, and be able to come on this with us was huge. Caleb, same thing. Thank you. And Jordan, appreciate you, man. Any final words for everyone?
Thanks for having us.
All right, let's go hit it. Okay, good week, everyone.
As we all know, AI is monitoring even the micro clicks we make in these platforms these days. And YouTube has just updated its algorithm to recommend videos like this. It'll be different for everyone, but it'll know exactly what you're looking for next. So if you click here, you'll be happy that you did.